Oh, what's up, Damonets? Tis I, Natraxi, a demon, a co-win, and today,
Huh? Hold up. Is the competition starting?
that's right, I wanted to go over Mikola and give some first impressions, maybe some teams that work for her, and where we need her. But before we get to all of that good stuff, as always, toss a like and subscribe down below. So, Mikola, as you can see, last night we pulled her to Supreme Plus. We got her EX weapon up to 15 and did not have the greatest of luck for arcane charms. So, speaking of charms, we'll talk about that first. So, obviously, for her charms, we want to go for arcane. That's looking like to be the best just because it gives increased attack and increased to the skill power, and overall, that's best. I thought perhaps that the healing one might be better because it would get it in healing, increase ult strength, but no, it's really her skill strength that really helps out, and the increase in attack power. And so that's why I'm running kind of like the next best thing, right? We're running balance, and then we're running the what's it, glory charm. Now I did try out sort charm, and it did not work because the it looks like the attack percentage is better than having the ult strength and skill power. So it looks like attack percentage is 1, and then skill power is 2. So arcane charm is ideal, at least when it comes to Dream Realm, which would then include battle drills. So let's go over her abilities. So I kind of have to just into kind of like my earlier review and kind of earlier thoughts on her. So obviously we have her Courage Spheres. They restore Healing Wave Emerge, restores percentage of attack plus ultimate power. That's why the attack percentage is better because it gives more attack. So you get more healing out of the Courage Spheres. And so, yeah, so you get more healing out of there. This is really good because it gives a nice buff. And it gives, so that's haste and defense. So that's been really good. Let's see. So then we have the Honor Arena. That's kind of like her key thing, right? And this is kind of where her skill power comes into play because it increases the stat, right? So the skill power increases that. So the more skill power we can get, the more she buffs the allies when they control the Honor Arena, which is huge. So, Razor Bell attack just converts into heals. She increases the magic defense and for the 2 weakest allies for 5 seconds, which is nice. This is just her increasing her attack, and just increases the attack when her side gets it, but that you just get that from level up. This is her EX weapon, and we don't really need, like, I don't think you need too heavy of an investment in it. It's just nice that we get the Combat Fury extra bonus here at the +5, which is very easy. The increased vitality didn't seem to really do much overall, and then obviously if you can get the increased here, so we just increased her to +15 to get the full bonus from the Combat Fury, and then we got the extra attack from getting her EX weapon up. And what that does is Combat Fury to all allied heroes except herself within range and dealing damage equal to 50% of her attack per second to enemies adjacent to these allies. So it's just her, it just adds to her damage. But it's really the other percentages that play off the attack power that really seem to help. Then this is just, enhanced force. Mikola's Courage Sphere remains unaffected. So it looks like she may actually be able to heal through things like silence. So we'll have to test that out on Stomper when we have a chance. And here, she just gives a little shield at the beginning to help the frontmost hero from getting burned down really quick. But it doesn't really seem to like do much. It doesn't last very long. So her ability, her kit's pretty good. She's really good at buffing. She's not really great at sustain, even though she does have some sustain. She's primarily more of a buffer and plays into that whole gimmick of the arena thing. So how does she play out in the different modes? So we have Dream Realm. So we've only been able to test her on Skyclops so far, but I've gotten my best parse. Now I think my best parse previously to this was probably about 54, 55 with your typical Scarlita Lily May team, and it was very heavy on RNG. So it really would need that RNG to get up to that 55 number. Here with Mikola, we can get pretty consistent at around 56 and change. I swapped a couple things, and then obviously with crits, we can get the higher numbers, so we can get to 57. Now I speculate with the arcane charms and the slight change I made into formation from what I'm about to show you, is that we could actually get up to 58. So here we go. This is my number. It's 57.6. So this is the unit. So this is kind of what everybody does. So as you can see, she's not going to replace Smokey because of his pure damage and pure healing. She does some heals, but it's not nearly as much as Smokey. So she's not going to replace Smokey. She's not going to replace a big healer overall. Shakir, he's more there for his buff than for damage. And obviously, because of all of the buffing, our big damage dealers are Lily May and Freyesto. As you can see, she does a decent amount of damage. It's not like crazy overboard like Smokey. It's not as huge as like a Ludovic, but she's more there so for her buffing than anything else. So this is what the formation that I ran looks like. What I did find is that if I put the illusion copy here, because in what I'll show you, I ran the defense or the illusion copy here. I want to put the real copy here to give Mikola the energy bonus. It yields a higher average, and I think with crits it would be higher, but with my high score I got really high at the beginning with crits and I just wasn't able to touch it. So we'll go into the replay and we'll show you how it works. Alright, so this area here, this is her honor arena, and when you have more of your heroes sitting in it than enemy heroes, you control it. So as long as you have more heroes in it, you control the area. You don't have to worry if it goes gray. It's not like it's going to buff your enemy. So you see, for the most part, we burn down the ads pretty quick in the beginning, and we control the area. See, everybody kind of like gets buffed up. Everybody gets buffed by Shakir. So we're getting multiple buffs. See, boom, 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 boom. Lupine Aura, attack, attack, haste. So they synergize off really well. What we do is we use Mikola to replace Scarlita in this formation, and it just overall performs better because Lily May just gets buffed up. She deletes ads really quick. Freyesto AoEs, deletes the ads, and Shakir just kind of helps out, but he's primarily there for his buff. We see we're going to maintain the arena for most of the fight. It's not going to be until a little bit later in the fight that we're actually going to lose control of it, when the ads kind of overwhelm us. So see here, we do get a point where we do lose control because we do get outnumbered. And then we quickly regain control, and I'm just going to run the rest of the fight out on 3x. So you see, for the majority of the fight, we're controlling the arena, we're getting the buff. We don't really lose it only until like the ads come out later in the fight, and they're stronger. So she's really strong on Skyclops. So you're going to need her here if you want that higher parse, right? So if you're chasing that higher number and you're in that whale territory, you're gonna want her, at least for Dream Realm. Now I speculate that she is going to be good on some of the other bosses as well. Croaker, I have no idea. We're gonna have to wait and see. I think that's kind of like, at least for me, kind of set with the Taylene build, with Taylene resurrecting and coming back, and that just has to do with the mechanics of the fight. She doesn't work on Necro Dragon. I tested her on the preseason, and the problem is because she's range 1, she runs up to the boss, she stands in the puddle and dies, and doesn't really add much to the fight. Um, Now we can test her on the seasonal side, probably replace Tamicia in that regards, and then hopefully get the buff to the rest of the squad and help out there. Stomper, again, we'll flex her in. I'm not entirely sure what I run for Stomper, so we'll mess around with the comps there. She has potential, as we'll have to see if her Courage Spheres can heal through the silence. That could add a lot to the fight and sustainability, so if we can keep up our heroes longer, we have the potential for more damage, because currently no support can really do a good job of keeping everybody up. So the only really support hero we run on Stomper is Rainer, and that's just for the debuff on the boss, so we can do as much damage as possible before everybody dies. Lone Gaze, she might, as she replaced Scarlita on Skyclop, she will probably, I would speculate, replace Scarlita on Lone Gaze, so it looks like Scarlita may lose her spot here a little bit in the Dream Realm. So we can slot her in on Lone Gaze. I think she'll be pretty good on Lone Gaze just because of the way the boss works. And then Alpha Bear, she'll probably replace Coco there. And we'll have a good time testing her there. I think that's the other boss she could be really, really big on is Alpha Bear. Now, like I said, her sustain, I didn't really see it as being there, and that may be a problem. But we would have the advantage of having like a Ludovic there for support as well. Plus, she'll be up in the melee range, so she'll probably have a little bit of a... I was playing with my hands. But she'll probably have a little bit of a better time there, staying alive, and because she'll be taking damage, so the flowers will be under her. So obviously, she'll do more damage to the boss in that regard, just by being in proximity. And so I think she has a lot of potential in Dream Realm as a Dream Realm character. More so than a Ludovic, where I kind of went all in on Ludovic after day one, because I believe he dropped on Croaker, and he was really, really good. So we'll have to see there. And then we can go, I'll talk about stages briefly. She doesn't work for high def pushing. Now, she may work in other push formats, but she doesn't work in high def because it's kind of pretty niche what you need there to push to the higher stages. You need that Almost, Lumont, Aaron, Smokey, Rowan, and maybe sometimes you flex in Scarlita for one of them, just to take care of Igor or Thorin. I thought maybe she could replace Rowan, but Rowan, you need him there for the energy regen. And the problem is that Mikola is going to run up into melee range, and melee is not very good for high deficit pushing, so she dies very easily. She's too squishy. She doesn't add enough support. You can't really control the arena, because the way it works with control, it is you're moving the enemies around. You're probably pulling them into the arena, so you're not really getting the benefit of the arena, but you don't really need that attack percentage anyway. So she doesn't really work in high deficit pushing. Could she work in regular pushing? Potentially. I'm not sure. We didn't get a chance to test her out in tower. She'll probably just replace Coco there. Arena. Let's go to Arena, because there are some really nice comps for her. She does do really well against stall teams. So, let's go here. This is your typical Aaron stall team. So, this is one of the more fun teams that I came up with that I really enjoyed running. And that involves Seth, Mikola, Lily May, Haywen, and Shakir. And it really stars kind of like Shakir and Seth, and just kind of controlling that arena and buffing them when possible. Now, the problem is that Mikola runs up, and she runs into melee, and she's susceptible to getting whacked by Thorin. So I'll show it. So we'll play it in slow. So you see here, we don't really control the arena at the start, and it's actually going to be a while before we do get control. But like, it's nice because this arena persists her death, so you can gain control of the arena after she dies. So you can see I actually think in this fight we never actually gain control of the arena. But she's just there. Those hips ain't lying over there. But we do. Okay, so we do get it at the end. So then it easily beats control. So she works really, really nice against stall teams where you can run a counter control team. Now, if you can already beat those types of teams, you're fine. Here's where I tested her with Lumont. I will say, her and Lumont don't get along all that well because Lumont's a little slow when it takes coming to getting up to the front line, and Mikola tends to run up. So the problem here is, I'll show you. Alright, so Mikola's gonna run up to the front, and Seth runs up to the front. So the problem with Arena 3 is then our Lumont is cut off. So he doesn't really get a chance to do anything until after Mikola eats it. So there we go, Mikola eats it, but as you can see, the arena persists. So our team still gets that buff. They don't get any support, but they still get the buff. So Seth dies. Eventually, Lily May is gonna die, and it's really gonna come down to our Shakir kind of carrying the team because of just his regen ability. And just kind of Lumont stalling over on the side. So we'll just speed this up. Right? So it's really Shakir kind of like heavy carries the team. So he's a hero that synergizes overall really well with Mikola because they kind of both get into melee. And they both kind of give similar buffs, and they really kind of just work well together because Shakir can be kind of like a de facto tank. He can get that shield from her, and he's even more deadly. Or you can give it to like a Seth, and he's really, really good. And so this is just another example of when we went up against the stall team. As you can see, Seth does a ton of damage, so we can give Seth the shield. Right, so Seth gets the shield at the beginning, but it doesn't really last long or do much. And that's seasonal. I don't know if seasonal plays into Arena. But you can see, this time we control it early on. But see, the problem is she's susceptible to attack because she is range 1. But luckily, that's why we needed to run her with like a Huon for that bigger sustain. So Mikola gives a little sustain early on, but it's really Huon that does the bulk of the healing in these counter stall teams. So we can just speed this up. So she works well. Now, if you want to see her in action with maybe some Celestials and Hypogeans, let's find one of those. Alright, so here we have a Zoo comp on Arena 3 against a stall team. Typically something you wouldn't run, but we can now run with Lily May. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Right, so I'll just slow it back down. So you see with the Zoo, we're able to easily control this arena area with the extra Freyasto copy, with Lily May going in there, with the extra minions from Burial going in there. So yes, she does synergize really well with Burial. She does synergize really well with Florabelle. So even when Florabelle gets punted, we still have all of the Burial shadows and Burial running around. So she works really well. Alright, so if you want to see her in action, we can show her against a better stall team. So this is, I think, one of the nastier stall teams that have come up because the Scarlita typical Aaron stall kind of fell apart. There's been a lot of counters that come up for it. Now that we have a Lily May in the mix, it's a very easy comp to counter. So this is another comp that I've kind of seen popped up and I borrowed for my alt account, is where it uses Freyasto, Thorin, the big heavy hitters to obviously eat the front line and just kind of wait for Scarlita to drop down. Now he runs Vala for extra damage, or you could run like a Ludovic for extra sustain. So let's see how this fight goes. So unfortunately, she runs up to the front. Maybe I could have stuck her in the back for defense as opposed to like burial. But the key feature is her arena. So obviously with Floribel's minion, with burial, and with the shadows, we're able to easily kind of control it, even though they have a Freyasto of their own, a Thorim. So we're able to easily maintain control of this arena. Even when Burial goes down, even when Mikola goes down, we still are able to control the arena. So what happened is our Burial ate it. Floribel's kind of doing the heavy lifting right now for the majority of the fight. But she's going to get picked off by Vala real soon. But our Burial did come back up. So then he's going to create his shadows. The shadows are going to count again for the arena, giving us the advantage. So we took out the big player, which was Scarlita. We took out, you know, we're just slowly whittling it down. Because it is stalled, so we're just trying to counter the stall. So we use, obviously you use Huan, she's in the back, safe, fine. She never gets touched, which is great. All the fighting kind of happens in the middle, between our Freyasto, Mikola, the minions. The problem there is keeping Mikola alive in those cases, because she is range 1. But in all, she's really, really good in arena against those stall teams. But if you can already beat those teams, like my Dio team can already burst down that team. My Dio team can burst down any control team. It's pretty easy. So one other team that one guy runs that's a little bit different is this Aaron almost burst team. That's pretty decent. It's set up to counter Lily May, but we can use like our counter control team that we run now that works really well. So we run Lily May. She actually counters Brian. Aaron kind of vacuums everybody, but then Shakira kind of bats cleanup at the end because eventually Lily May is gonna eat it. So that one's pretty good. She's good there. I did get to test her out in Supreme Arena. I only could attack once, sadly, to test her out, and it was a little, I would say, disappointing. And maybe it's just because I used her on the wrong map. But I tried to run Zoo on the third map because it's kind of spread out. So I figured, okay, Burial's gonna be good, but it doesn't go well, and I'll show you kind of how. So here we have the arena, but the problem is because Freyasto is kind of slow getting out, and then gets vacuumed up. Is that we never really gain control of the middle. So we never get the advantage of Mikola's buff, and our team just kind of gets burned down. Now, have we maybe pushed Freyasto up to the top? Maybe that would have helped out. There's some things we could have changed there, like formation-wise, that might have helped. Or maybe we could have just run her on map 1 instead, right? Because we did have like a Freyasto comp, so with like a Taylene. The only concern there is because of Taylene's burn ability that she would burn down Mikola, and she would burn down everybody else around her. So it's actually better to run a control team against the Taylene, because you can control Taylene, because you just use Aaron Vacuum and then the root, and that kind of like locks her down, so it kind of cancels out her ult, so she doesn't really get to ult that much, and that's one way to counter a Taylene. And then obviously we weren't going to run her against God Comp, because we could just run our own version of God Comp against God Comp. That works a little bit better because of this map. So, I wasn't going to run her there, but I did want to test her, so we were kind of stuck running her against it. And it's because we were running, Mikola and Zoo against a control comp, where it's typically a little bit weak. It could also be that because our heroes are a little bit weaker compared to the enemy, right? Because they have a P4 Arden, that's 20. A P for Elsa, that's 20. Our floor is only like a 17. Yes, my Lily May is like a 20 something, but you know their Lily May is about the same. So it's like no real advantage here. Burial's only 15 P2. Maybe if he was beefier, that would have helped. Maybe if Freyasto was a little bit beefier. Maybe if I had a Paragon level at Mikola or I had her at plus 15 at the time, that would have helped. And if I ran better charms, and again, position, that would have helped. Now, I did get to test her a little bit at one copy. It was okay. From what I'm seeing, one copy is not as good as a Philly built Scarlita, but if you don't have a Scarlita kitted out, you may want to run like a one copy Mikola on, say, Skyclops instead. Um, she doesn't work on the Primal Lord version of Alpha Bear. I think she's too squishy. That fight's weird though with scaling, so she just may not be good there. I think she'll be better here on the Dream Realm on the seasonal side of things. Battle drills, didn't get a chance to test her out, but if we go into it right and then we look at our roster right, so I have her slotted in. I'll get to test her out, but she kind of replaces Coco, I think, or it's going to give us that option for that third team because we're down pretty far in the weeds when it comes to heroes for third team. So now we're going to have that buffer character that we really need for third team to get the big benefit. So we can swap her in. Maybe we put her in for second team. Maybe we put her in for third team. So for third team, I'm probably looking at something like a Kruger, Corin, Marilee, Vala, and Mikola. Something along those lines. Or maybe so we drop out to Misia and we go with Kruger, who's the bigger debuffer for those types of heroes. And then we match them up, match him up with Mikola, or I'm gonna match him up with a Coco, so that they get that big bonus. And then we'll use like Mikola, maybe more with like the Lily May comp, or something with Odie, and then we can swap with Odie to get close to the boss. So then we have that in there, and then maybe we have like Friesto in the mix. So we'll see. We have a lot more options now because of Mikola. So we can do a lot more, I think, with that third team that usually typically struggles in battle drills because they don't have that dedicated buffer on the team because they don't have that big buffer available to them. And that's what Mikola is. She provides a huge buff. She provides attack bonus and haste, which is big because that's what Smokey does. That's big, and that's why the Smokey comps usually do a bit better. Or you have Rainer, who's just a pure big debuffer and gives a little bit above a buff, and that's why his squads do better. And then you have like Coco. Sadly, she does give a buff and a debuff to the boss, but Mikola is just overall better in that respect. And so I expect Mikola to be huge. I'll get to test her out either shortly after reset, or I will have to wait till we open up Grim Executioner to test her. And then as far as that's it. I don't. We'll see. I mean, can she play? Well, I get Ravage Realm soon. She could play a role there. Guild Supremacy. I would probably flex her in over Coco for Guild Supremacy, just because it didn't seem like we needed that really big like healer for Guild Supremacy because the boss did not do a lot of damage. So we could have slotted someone in like a Mikola who would have given a bigger buff because we couldn't run Smokey because Smokey would just get interrupted and he wouldn't really do that much and wasn't that effective on the Guild Supremacy fight. So Mikola has a chance to shine there. Will we use her on tower? Again, maybe, maybe not. We'll see. In all, I think if you're a whale and you want those top scores in Dream Realms, you're going to have to pull her to S+, plus 15 her weapon, obviously. If you're like a mid to light spender, you can probably get away with getting her not getting her and just using her for Coco, you probably won't get those top parses. You'll still be able to compete for those top spots. If you do decide to get her, I would recommend going for Mythic Plus, or if you just want, if you're able to, if not, just get the one copy. Um, if you're not gonna run the Scarlito teams, then you would just run the Mikola teams. You could just get the one just wait for the other bosses and then get the one copy and see how they do there. If you're free to play, you probably don't need her, to be honest, because you can just run Coco, or maybe you can again just get the one copy like a Ludovic. She's very similar to Ludovic in that priority of who's a good banner, who do I want to get, like Ludovic. I think unless you were going for like a top score in Dream Realm, then you weren't probably gonna build out Ludovic. But if you are going, then you were going to build him out, so that you would just want the one copy for like Tower, pretty much. And here you may just be able to get away with the one copy of Mikola for some of the fights if you don't have Scarlita built up for seasonal, which you may not, or you may have at this point in time. So yeah, it's up to you. I think overall she's a nice to have. If you're well, you want her, and you're spending, you want her. If not, then you can probably kind of just pass on her for now. So she's, like I said, just a nice to have. She's right in that range of like a Ludovic. And she's not transformative like Olmus, because Olmus transformed the pushing comp. He transformed Arena if you did use him. He's a fantastic character. You know, he really makes that control comp that much better. He made Lumont more relevant. And as far as like Lily May goes, she was a must pull because of her ability to counter stall teams, her overall damage in Arena, her abilities in Arena, her overall damage in Dream Realm, because she is like the number one boss killer pretty much for all fights, except she's not good on Lone Gaze, and then she's just second best on one other fight. So and then she's phenomenal in battle duels. So Lily May, she was a must pull. Her banner's still up at this time. You should probably pull for her to get her kitted out first before you even think about pulling for Mikola. So that's it, and I will all catch you all later. And as always, if you have any comments or questions, toss them below. Bye.